all coincidences with real people are random. If they tell you that this is not the case, ignore them. I had always been a skeptic, and thus preferred to treat ancient myths as products of folklore. Delving into stories of monsters and gods seemed to me like a naive pastime, far from reality. But everything changed when I received a letter from my old friend, Professor William Hargreave, a researcher of occult sciences and ancient cultures. His message was written in a frantic, nearly insane hand. I found proof, he wrote. It's real. He is coming, and humanity cannot escape his awakening. You must come to me, I will explain everything. Don't delay. This concerns all of us. William was not a man prone to panic, so I could not ignore his words. A sense of dread overtook me. I went to his remote house, hidden on the coast of New England. William's house stood on the edge of an abandoned fishing village, Innsmouth. I arrived on a gloomy autumn day, when the sea was particularly rough and the air was saturated with salt and winds, as if breathing something ancient and sinister. When I entered the house, I was greeted by a pale, emaciated William. His eyes were full of terror, but at the same time reflected an unhealthy excitement. Without a word, he led me to his library, cluttered with old manuscripts and books, their pages covered with strange symbols and drawings. I found something, he whispered, as if fearing someone might hear. Cthulhu. It's not a myth, it's real. He sleeps in the depths of the ocean, but he will wake soon. William showed me an ancient map leading to a place deep underwater. In the center of the map was a massive island, hidden from human eyes, but marked as Arlai, the place where Cthulhu was imprisoned. We spent hours discussing the island, its location, and how to get there. William was obsessed with finding this place. He believed that his knowledge could prevent the awakening of the ancient god, but the more I listened, the more fear gripped me. William spoke with a manic excitement about creatures that he claimed inhabited the seas and the depths of the earth. A few days later, we set sail on a small boat into the open ocean, following strange coordinates. The sea was unusually calm, as if holding its breath before something unimaginably terrible. When the first glimpse of Arlai appeared on the horizon, a strange dread overwhelmed me. Giant stones jutted out from the water's surface, their shape irregular, defying the laws of nature. When we landed on the island, an oppressive silence surrounded us. The stones, seemingly alive, were covered in strange symbols that seemed to move when you weren't looking. Time on the island seemed to flow differently, hours merged into a single moment, and the shadows cast by the stones moved of their own accord. We approached a massive cyclopean door carved into the rock. On it was depicted a terrifying silhouette of Cthulhu, a giant creature with tentacles, surrounded by ancient writings, the symbols of which I could not comprehend. William, trembling, placed his hand on the door. "This is it," he said. "We're close." When he spoke the ancient incantation, the door began to slowly open. A rumbling echoed from the depths of the island, as if something ancient and powerful had awakened. We descended into a dark underground temple. Everything around was soaked in an unnatural dampness and the smell of rot. Stone pillars supporting the ceiling were covered with images of monsters worshipped by long-lost civilizations. At the center of the hall stood an altar, upon which rested a massive statue of Cthulhu. "There he is," William whispered, standing before the altar. "This is his heart, the source of his power." Suddenly, the temple began to tremble. The floor beneath our feet shifted as if it were alive. The statue started to change its shape, and in a moment I realized it wasn't just a statue. It was alive. Cthulhu was awakening. Tentacles emerged from its stone body, slowly wrapping around everything around us. The air was filled with a sound like an unbearable scream. I felt something cold and sticky grasp my consciousness. I couldn't think, I couldn't move. I could only feel the horror creeping into my soul. William stood motionless, seemingly entranced by the ancient terror. I knew he was lost. Realizing we had no chance of stopping Cthulhu's awakening, I ran. My feet slipped on the wet stone, but the terror drove me forward. Behind me came the sound of destruction. Cthulhu's tentacles were tearing everything in their path, collapsing the temple and all its ancient secrets. When I emerged outside, the sea around the island was boiling and foaming. The waves had grown enormous, as if the ocean itself was trying to escape the awakened horror. I jumped onto our small boat and sailed away without looking back. But even at a distance, I felt his presence. Cthulhu had fully awakened. His power was already seeping into our world, and I knew this was only the beginning. Upon returning to the shore, I realized there was no longer any point in resisting. The nightmares of Cthulhu began to haunt me every night. I saw his shadows growing, his tentacles reaching every corner of the planet. People were starting to lose their minds, sensing the approach of his power. The world was changing, slowly descending into chaos. William never returned. I'm not sure if he was dead or had become part of something greater, something ancient. Perhaps he knew too much, and Cthulhu decided to keep him for himself. I spend my final days in waiting. I feel his approach is inevitable. The words written on the ancient manuscripts seemed like madness, but now they sound like the truth. Ph Nglui Mgl Do Naf Cthulhu Rlia Wga Nagel Fiftang Dot. And I am no longer sure that humanity will be able to resist this ancient god. For his presence is already everywhere in our dreams, in our fears, in the very ocean. We cannot escape. The end is near.